Welcome to the DroidDevCast, a podcast brought to you by the team at Esper, bringing you the latest news, thoughtful discussion, and insights into all things Android, Android DevOps, and open source software development. I'm your host, Rin Oliver, Platform Evangelist at Esper, and today I'm joined by Esper COO Shiv Sundar, Esper CEO Yadhu Gopalan, Esper VP of Customer Success Chris Stirrat, Esper Director of Cybersecurity Jasmine, and Esper VP of Technical Sales Keith Szot. It's quite a panel we've got lined up to discuss some of the trends we've seen this year in terms of Android devices and Android software development. So with that said, let's kick things off and get started by asking what each of you saw as the biggest surprise this year in terms of the Android ecosystem. Was there anything exciting? If so, let's talk about it.
I'll go first on start off with saying that 2020 was a pretty challenging time for all of us, and we saw more enterprises deploying Android-based devices as part of their overall solution. And what you could see was the acceleration of this deployment to address the fact that many are working from home and the need to reduce physical customer interaction. And this particular kind of capability that our customers needed to empower underscores how important a product like Esper is to fill the large gap that exists and will continue to exist for the foreseeable future. It's this capability that we can enable enterprises, small and large, to deploy devices at scale and have a rigorous control how their applications are deployed and monitored on their devices.
Thanks, Ren. I think that mobile adoption accelerated really quickly across industries, and that had a huge impact on conversations about risk. Organizations had to figure out how to protect the device and the data from user risks and cloud risks really quickly, and the result was kind of a perimeter 2.0 security model. And instead of creating a perimeter around a traditional network, it was about creating boundaries around a really tightly defined usage model that prevented unauthorized use. And I think that those types of really defined single-use scenarios are often the best risk controls in many use cases. Also, kind of closing off user access to expose the device to unsecured networks or cloud risks, safeguards against privacy risks in industries like education and healthcare.
Hey, Ren, this is Keith. So on this one, I knew it was coming, but I just had to see it to believe it. So for context, I was a key player in launching Windows CE for vertical markets a long time ago. I worked on Linux Compete for Windows Embedded, just like go after Linux, right? Worked on Windows Phone, device makers, OEMs. I lived in Microsoft's OEM division for many years. By the way, I used a MacBook while I was in there, which is not necessarily advised. And then, I was working as a consultant when Steve Ballmer made that famous iPhone prediction. I have a danger device, the dagger in the heart for how Microsoft handled their mobile business. So imagine my surprise when Microsoft shipped an Android device, the Surface Duo nonetheless, right? They're an OEM. They build apps. They're a cloud company first. A major change for Microsoft and, frankly, for the Android device maker industry as a whole.
So do you have any big news around Aosp impacting custom device builders?
Yeah, so this is Keith again. Absolutely. I think Google's continued rollout of Project Mainline has some really interesting implications and opportunities for custom-built devices. So this is the ongoing modularization of Aosp, and it's improving Android's architecture for delivering system updates, whether it's from Google via Google Play for GMS devices or via a device maker or OS supplier on these custom-built devices. So it simplifies the process to deliver the latest security patches to your deployed devices, which means lower engineering costs for the device maker ecosystem. We're hopeful this translates into faster availability of patches for custom-built devices, resulting in more secure devices deployed in the field. Now, it's going to continue. According to Google, you'll see the Android runtime, the ART, included in Project Mainline with Android 12, and this is a very important part of the core system, and it will be more easily updatable moving forward when we hit Android 12 in 2021.
Great point, Keith. This direction that Google's taking is really going to enable us to get patches to these devices or availability of patches. But one of the things it's not being addressed is like how do these patches actually get deployed, pushed onto devices, and controlling like how are these patches going to be deployed to physical devices, staged, reduce the blast radius, monitor the progress, and if you had issues, how do you roll back these patches? Because any patch that you do is a risk on how, whether for application compatibility, driver compatibility, and system compatibility, and and this is where really kind of Esper comes in, and we kind of fill that gap in. We take what Google is enabling by faster ability to build patches and get kind of the core Android pieces out, and not having to wait for system manufacturers to build that. And what we can allow our customers and our partners to take these available patches and enable these engineering teams with these devices to actually make these patches available and deploy them with high level of confidence. So I'm really excited about this.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm going to go off script for a second and ask, is that where something like Android over-the-air updates come into play, or would I be wrong there? We can cut this if I'm wrong.
No, but so Android over-the-air, what that kind of solves is for the consumer market. I mean, Google push it out as an update, and all the phones get it. But dedicated space is a little bit different. You want to go one device, 10 device. You want to monitor because these are all mission critical devices. So you really want to have tight control of the rollout. You really want to know what the impact of the patch is going to be. You want to be able to test. You want to like have velocity that is slow, increases over time, and be able to control that. You've got 100,000 devices. Like how do I manage that? How do I push it to the devices that I know I have the best capability of kind of monitoring? Those are the kind of the solutions that you kind of have to have on top of it. The over-the-air is just like, how do I get the update? But it's a little bit more than that. It's granular control that we need to give the customers who are doing this mission control, specific devices and dedicated devices in the field.
Yeah, and this is Chris. From a customer standpoint, we're actually seeing a big uptick of customers interested in Aosp-based devices for a lot of the reasons Yadhu mentioned there. And a lot of these customers started off with just standard off-the-shelf phones, tablets, things like that. And over time, as their fleet of devices has grown and their management has expanded across that fleet, they're looking to us to help provide them a much better managed experience for things as Yadhu was mentioning. They're updating their devices, over-the-air updates, things like that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That was actually very helpful context. So my next question would be, what does Android 11 mean for the dedicated device market? How has that changed the market? How is it going to, etc.?
Yeah, let me jump in here on this one. This is Keith again. So this is that age-old question of what is the right Android OS version to choose when you're creating your fleet. And there is the GMS part of it, and there is the Aosp part of this. So for custom device builders, when Android 11 shipped, Google just supports the latest 4 versions of the OS when they deliver security patch coverage for Aosp. So that means that Android 7 Nougat was dropped when Android 11 shipped. And there are a lot of custom-built Android 7-based devices out there which are no longer covered by Google. So this is a big challenge for customers, and something that we're actively helping our customers figure out how to cover this. So a very important area to keep these deployed devices secured, as it doesn't mesh well with Google's consumer-driven model around their devices that they do with GMS, which takes me to GMS next. So with GMS, it's a decision of if you're going to get these off-the-shelf consumer devices, what model do you pick? Because we've been talking about firmware over the air, and when you have a consumer device, you have either no or limited control over when the OS is updated from an OEM. And so we saw this in the roll from Android 9 to Android 10. You see it somewhat from Android 10 to Android 11. It means that our customers need to ensure that their overall solution will work with the latest Android version as their device fleet gets updated. And so that typically is your APK that runs on the device. It could have implications for your backend, for your cloud. But this is a cycle that consumer devices force our customers to be on, and something that they have to look at, comparing the availability of the device, if it's an older device and it has a stable OS release that they're happy with, versus getting a newer device. How long will it be in the market? How long will it receive security patches? And will it roll to the next major version release? This is an annual event for Android. We'll see this over and over again, and it's going to happen in the run-up to Android 12 next year. Now, the step back is the coolest feature with Android 11 is the wireless debugging added to ADB in Android 11. It's super cool. If you're a developer, if you haven't tried it, you got to try it out.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. I mean, yeah, I think you hit it on the nose. It's like Google's making a yearly update. It's a challenge for our customers who have consumer devices deployed in dedicated devices, and one of the things we see is with increased competition in the consumer space and fragmentation from device vendors, etc. A lot of the changes are to kind of address that. I mean, our dedicated device space, like one of the features was widgets and dark mode and all these things that kind of are great for consumer, but don't really address the dedicated device area that we're kind of focused on. And what's really is lacking in these releases are solutions that address the problems these enterprises face on a day-to-day management, day-to-day scaling, day-to-day activities. Although they like the great thing about these patches is they do bring security patches into the fold, and our job is to figure out how to get these to these devices in a meaningful manner.
Absolutely, I agree completely. So everyone, what was your favorite device or customer use case that you worked with this year? And if so, if you have a favorite, why is it your favorite?
This is Jasmine. I was really impressed by the way that some of our customers took kind of a holistic approach to device health this year. And we're including, network security and data encryption. Esper is unique in the sense that it offers the ability to see every layer of device security, hardware, firmware, configurations, apps, and content, and respond in real time as those risks emerge.
Yeah, this is Keith. For me, it's driven by COVID. And part of it was breathtaking to see the swing with our customers, depending on what vertical they were in, for better or for worse. Retail was hit hard, and they had to make a lot of switches in terms of their business model and their focus. But kind of at the core, it's how our customers with Esper helped people work their way through this COVID situation. And so remote patient monitoring using Android devices paired with on-body sensors, that is a big one. Allowed people to be able to stay at home and have remote care that otherwise would not have been practically available to them in this environment. And the other one is the situation with retirement homes. Older people that got hit hard from a social perspective due to COVID, and basically they get locked up in their rooms for their own protection, but really without a lot to do. And so one of our customers provides entertainment and communication devices for senior citizens. And they had a huge uptake in their business. And it was really nice to see because, in my mind, each new device added to Esper is connected directly to a person and making their experience better in this hard time. The last one for me is just the rise of ML on the edge. So we have a set of customers that are pushing ML models to these edge devices as part of their solutions. And so really interesting to see the uptake of that. And by the way, though there's some pretty big files, Esper can handle them.
Yeah, exactly. And Keith, and I think I totally agree. Those use cases you pointed out about, were super critical during these times. And I'm like, it's awesome to be able to enable these companies to make those scenarios really work. For me, one of the things is it's not as much as it's more of a trend. And this really accelerated, I think, during 2020. And it's what I talk about is digital transformation by what I think of as traditional companies just you would never think of them as really playing in the digital space. And they started to really kind of internalize the fact that they had to come up with something that was more modern, that kind of took advantage of customers really wanting to be able to interact digitally with the product. And this can be from fitness to healthcare, but to drive a really innovative customer experience is what we see. And really, it's like I think this is just going to continue, and more and more companies are going to want to have a device or some experience as part of their overall solution.
I agree completely. And everybody, I was wondering, how did you see the Android landscape evolve this year? What shifts were drastic and which were a little more subtle?
Well, I'll say I would call it gradual. I think 5G is going to be a key driver for the design targets with chip vendors. You're going to start to see this trickle down from the introduction of consumer devices with the carriers around 5G and the emergence of these commercial use cases and the opportunity to include them in custom-built devices. You know, it's kind of fuzzy. We're just up the hill from T-Mobile, and I was down getting some food at the grocery store, and T-Mobile engineers were in the parking lot testing streaming media services that was clearly for 5G. And, you know, T-Mobile is going to be rolling this out as a service for homes, most likely, competing with cable television. So, you know, that's one use case, one aspect that hasn't really been touched upon. And when you look at 5G, it could potentially open up a lot of interesting new use cases for dedicated devices. And so I'm pretty excited for that coming into 2021. Now, as a side note, it's just like, what the heck is 5G, right? It's very murky, a topic for another day.
Although if you want to hear a little bit about 5G, you can check out our podcast with Szot Mobile, random plug, but you can.
Well said, Keith. I think while everybody is excited about 5G, for me, this year has been like very transforming in terms of verticals that were accelerated for like more than 5 years in like a matter of few months. Restaurants, fitness, healthcare, all these verticals were drastically impacted by what COVID had imposed upon them. And pretty much every single vertical took up the challenge to transform themselves in what would be a post-COVID world. If you take vertical by vertical, restaurants, we saw an emergence of cloud kitchens and dominance of food delivery. Connected fitness, while Peloton was the only player in connected fitness, we saw a lot of fitness companies transform their business model of manufacturing fitness equipment for gyms to at-home fitness devices. And one particular vertical that we felt was super interesting for us was healthcare. While healthcare providers have always been a little slower to adopt the latest and greatest technology due to security concerns and like strict regulations and HIPAA, we have seen like many hospitals through our customers completely transform their patient care experience from like booking appointments to follow-up checkups to monitoring patients at health, or even devices that these patients would take home and monitor their vitals back at home. So those were some major happenings that we felt like was partially due to what COVID had done. But anyway, those were changes that needed to be happen. From a positioning point of view, what I would like to call out is, for me, the change that happened this year and for the upcoming years, Android is going to be a dominant choice of operating system for IoT devices, right? I mean, Android, yes, powers over 2 billion consumer phones. I truly believe that Android is going to evolve as a major IoT operating system provider in the upcoming years.
Absolutely, I agree completely. And switching gears a little bit, everyone, what's the key thing that you see as being the most beneficial when deploying Esper enhanced Android on single-purpose devices?
All right, I'll go first, kind of set the stage. Esper enhanced Android, or EEA as we call it in short, is about bringing a package solution that layers on top of Aosp that not only simplifies like the deployment of devices, but more importantly, improves the overall manageability of these devices. It allows us, our hardware partners, to ship faster by increasing the velocity of deployment by the customers, allowing our customers to kind of being able to take it from manufacturing all the way to where they want to go to. The other key thing that is really what we help is allow the hardware manufacturers to offload the complex and tedious task of providing firmware updates, and we kind of take that task on. And the equivalency that I would kind of bring in that other people are used to is where Red Hat and Red Hat's services and manageability solutions that they have on top of Red Hat, they kind of go hand in hand. And for us, you can think of EEA as kind of the Red Hat OS, and then the Esper cloud solution as a manageability solution that really works closely with that EEA. Although we work on off-the-shelf devices, EEA just makes this experience a lot more better.
Yeah, this is Keith. So for me, it's seamless provisioning and the built-in, ready-to-go remote diagnostics that are provided by EEA. You know, the industry's thirst for true zero touch. And the typical methods that you have available to you through GMS are not. So when you look at EEA with the push for contactless experiences and rollout, seamless provisioning achieves that. It minimizes truck rolls. We have one customer that drop shipped kiosks running EEA to their retail locations, and they had the store managers break the box, plug it in, connect it to Ethernet, and the device booted up and was enrolled and provisioned to spec based on it being remotely defined through Esper. So it was a really streamlined way that fit into the COVID situation and also minimizes operational costs. That was really neat to see out in the real world, and that then relates to, well, as a developer, you know, these days being able to engage with local personnel that are technically competent around a device that's having problems is tough to do, much less you going out there to service it yourself. And so remote control as a table stake, but secure remote ADB to any of your EEA devices in the field is absolutely a fantastic feature and has been used by our customers to effectively solve problems from their office and be able to keep their fleet running in the year of COVID.
I see kind of over-the-air firmware updates as a huge benefit of Esper Enhanced Android. Firmware over-the-air is sometimes awkwardly made into the acronym of FOTA. And I think that there has been a major trend this year towards firmware attacks that are exceptionally resilient, hard to detect, and kind of becoming more sophisticated. Firmware hacks can take place in a lot of ways. Malware rootkits, infected USBs, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, Bluetooth, and more. And one recent malware strain could actually reinstall after an Android device was factory reset, which meant that organizations needed to migrate their OS or reflash the OEM firmware in order to get rid of it. So I see EEA as a means of protection, you know, in addition to other controls against this trend of firmware attacks. And if you choose to have Esper manage those firmware updates for you, it can also really reduce the operational burden.
Hey, this is Chris. Just one thing to add here. One thing we hear from customers a lot is when the devices are going to take an update to the OS, they really want to control which devices take the update first. They want to put them through tests. They want to test out their own applications that run and do that before they deploy it out to their production fleet. And so EEA provides them a much easier way to manage that whole process. They can target the over-the-air update to specific devices at specific times. They can do their testing, and then they can roll it out to the rest of their fleet. So it's very, it resonates really well with customers, and it's something that they definitely need control over.
I agree completely. Thank you, everyone, for your well thought out answers. And for my next question, I was wondering, in what ways have you seen the Android DevOps space evolve this year? What were the biggest changes that you saw there?
Yeah, well, I'll start out with kind of the simple and obvious. Putting the infrastructure in place from the Esper perspective. And so we introduced pipelines in 2020, allowing you to do app updates, app uninstall, reboot, stack it up, define your own stages as you wish against that pipeline. And so it was really cool to be able to introduce, and from my perspective, demonstrate this capability to customers in 2020. And so I'm really excited about where we're going to take it in 2021.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. I mean, I think for us, pipeline is kind of the centerpiece of like how we think about DevOps, but and there's lots of different solutions and different things that we have and we're bringing in, but that's absolutely kind of the core value proposition. And I really want to kind of talk about like what the DevOps. I mean, this thing is taken for granted now. Everybody does it on the cloud side, and it's incorporated into every aspect of day-to-day functionality for engineering teams and making sure their solutions work without any service interruption. And that's our goal. We want to bring this in, and we want to kind of take something from this playbook and provide this to our customers on how they manage these large fleets and make it a DevOps problem. This has actually really resonated well with our customers. They love the kind of the tactic and the vision and the way we're kind of thinking about this problem set. It's not really about like we do X or we do Y, but it's a holistic approach to overall problem that how we enable engineering teams to control and operate these fleets.
This is Jasmine. I think that Yadhu really got to the core of what we're doing, which is scaling the incredibly proven DevOps model to a distributed Android computing model. The annual State of DevOps survey came out about a week ago, and it shows that DevOps maturity is rising on average in organizations. And what that means, in traditional computing models, they're shifting their focus from building a DevOps infrastructure. They've got that infrastructure in place now, and now they're building on top of it to create a capacity for monitoring, disaster recovery, and mature automation. And I think that's kind of the vision for our Android DevOps infrastructure is to provide that so our customers can compete on availability, data privacy, and those factors really tie into customer quality of experience.
I agree completely. Lastly, everyone, is there anything you'd like to mention for our listeners as we wrap up 2020?
Thanks for asking, Ren. It's been, nobody ever thought we would have a year like this. Pandemic, offices shut down, work from home. I think for me, as we're heading to the holiday season and as we're coming close to the year, one thing that I'm extremely grateful for, both from a company perspective, our employees, as a business, we managed to survive this year. All our employees managed to work from home and keep their spirits up, and they were able to, in many ways, avoid the whatever the pandemic had disruption the pandemic had caused to the loved ones. We're very fortunate. All our employees are healthy. We are doing well as a business, and we managed to fight this year out. That speaks a lot to our resilience as a company and as people, but also we are very fortunate that we were able to avoid any kind of major catastrophe in terms of personal or professional lives. From a business perspective, I think I'm very, very happy that as a technology, we were able to make a very, very small impact in few areas. Very especially, around 20,000 devices were deployed in Asia and Africa to help rural kids continue their education during COVID. We were able to provide technology in the restaurant sector for food delivery to keep a couple of these restaurants up and running, despite the fact that the entire dining was closed. And finally, in the healthcare sector, we had deployed over 2,000 devices across various hospitals in the United States, from temperature scanning to patient monitoring. And just the feeling that as a company, the technology that we built and me and Yadhu envisioned, we were able to make a small impact during COVID makes me really, really happy. And I'm really hoping for a much more positive, much more brighter 2021 for everybody at Esper and for everybody around the world. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Shiv. I completely share your enthusiasm, and that 2021 would be much better. And really kind of coming back to the point, 2021 has no doubt been a very challenging year for everyone. And like Shiv, super thankful that we were able to help these customers and navigate this together and address the challenges and deliver some value that they can use in many different ways. And as we exit 2020, things are looking up. We have a vaccine in the pipeline, and here's hoping that things will go back to normal. And at Esper also, we're exiting on a positive note. And we are looking forward to 2021 and continuing to support our customers even better. Along with our hyper focus on customer service, we're really proud of this. We have an amazing slate of features that we're planning to roll out in 2021 that our customers can take advantage of. And the key factor is that Esper's success is directly tied to how our customers deploy and scale their fleet. There's like as our customers are able to enable their solutions, we have our success is directly in line with that. And here's to looking forward to 2021 for our customers, our partners, and a truly amazing set of employees who make Esper really, really, really great.
I agree completely. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me. I truly appreciate it, and I look forward to 2021 as well. And on that note, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the DroidDevCast. We'll be back next week with another exciting show for you. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share this episode on social media. You can follow us on Twitter at @EsperDev and subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep up with all the latest happenings here at Esper. You can learn more about Esper at esper.io/demo. And don't forget to listen to the DroidDevCast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Simplecast, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Thank you again for listening.